Yeah. Check in with Ebony, Cancer sign her astrology. Time to vibe and connect through conversation and poetry. Speaking of all things, no topic is off the table. Giving hope, spreading love, channel the vibrations. Yeah, me, she, us, one and the same. Illuminating the dark, peace we will attain. Not a fantasy, elevating mentally.
Hey y'all. Had to get my green juice in today. But I want to thank you all for coming to check me out here at Ebony & Co. And my name is Ebony. And today I really just wanted to dive into something that I've noticed. And I just wanted to bring it to other people's attention. I'm sure other people may feel some kind of way about it, or it may provoke thought and interest to you guys where you're like, what? I never thought of it that way. And before I get started, I do not have kids, but because I feel like I have to throw a disclaimer out there, because people, when you talk about content related to any type of kids in any type of form or setting, it causes people to want to throw daggers at you because I ain't got it. Just because I don't have kids does not mean I do not see, I do not observe, and it does not mean I have not helped participate in raising other people's kids in all shapes and forms. So let me just get that straight. But into the topic today, I really wanted to address just dreams and aspirations, or lack thereof. I've noticed over the past decade or so, as I've helped others help raise their kids, whether they be around friends, people I've met along the way, family, their kids, and I just noticed a lack of dreams. And what I mean by dreams, I recall myself, somebody who once wanted to be a fashion designer. Growing up, I wanted to be a poet. I wanted to do a lot of things. But I was doing all of those things out of hobby. And a lot of it was sparked by my older cousin, who she had journals. I still have a journal. I like to write. I like to read. And a lot of that did come from her. I say all that to say there's a lack of adults, parents, community pouring into the kids now. Even with my stepfather, I love to travel because guess what? I was exposed to these things and I gravitated towards it. And today I still participate in most of that. And in some capacity, I'm getting a lot of that back because, again, we all know adulthood, a lot of those dreams do take a back seat. And now at my age, after life has been life, and it's time that I get back into the things that I love and I've once dreamed to do. So circle back to just how I've noticed and observed the lack of dreams among kids. Not saying it's all kids. I've seen some of the greatest thing among kids these days, but that's very small. I feel like from a culture standpoint, there are a lot of kids out here who play into this cosplay role where they glorify, how should I say, a lot of things that when I was growing up would not be glorified. There's not saying they should be shamed, but it should be some type of dignity within yourself to want to aspire, to want better for yourself. And it's kind of hard to try to educate when you have kids that are accustomed to certain things, whether that be the lifestyle that they're accustomed to living within their homes, the community they are within. A lot of times, depending on the community you are in, if everybody's doing it, you don't know no better. You don't know the difference or what to expect. But I do believe that somebody like me who was exposed to different things, exposure kind of sets the tone and it sparks interest. I would say that it sparks interest into kids to want to aspire to do something with their lives, to do more with their lives, and want to see something bigger than their circumstances. And I believe that is the beginning of how dreams are made. It's one thing to be within a circumstance and feel like you have no way out, no control over why you're in the predicament you're in. But the moment you're exposed to something much bigger than yourself, that immediately sparks the dream and the aspiration to want to get it, to seek it, to search for it, to how can I obtain this and have it for myself because I deserve to have it. And a lot of that just goes back to who is pouring into you. And that speaks up another topic because a lot of kids are being raised with adults who once had dreams and put it on the back burner. And a lot of times, a lot of adults are they're pulling from an empty place or simply just don't know what they don't know, right? A lot of times people are just raising their kids the best way they can and don't know any better to teach their kids any better. We just got into this generation within like the past 5 years where we actually having conversations about mental health, when we're talking about our upbringings, when we're literally having full blown discussions about things that have transpired in our life. And that just started where we're having proper dialogue and having terms to identify, how we feel about things that affected us growing up. But again, that also comes with a layer of self awareness. And if you're not self aware to know any better, to do different, that falls down and trickle down to your kids. Not knowing that now your kids are probably worse off than how you started because you're not giving them what they need. And all roads go back to what happened to the dreams and aspirations of kids today. So, like I stated before, a lot of it's just lack of knowledge, lack of self awareness. The parents don't know any better. A lot of parents just doing the best they can. But at some point, we all have to take accountability for our lives and make sure, especially for those who have kids, or if you're playing a step role, or if you're being an auntie, uncle, whatever role you play, even as a mentor, I feel like, again, when we know better, it is our job to do better and pour better into the kids. I don't care in what relationship you may have, even if it's a mentor role, the goal is the same, to do better and to make sure we pouring into the kids, and that helps the community. The goal is, again, we're all here to help each other go home. That means the kids included, which means it's one thing if we lacked when we were growing up, but once we get older and know better, okay, you pour that into the kids behind you. Now, moving into that part, I know it can be difficult trying to pour into kids who simply do not have the mental capacity to even understand where you're coming from. And again, it goes back to the parenting. If parenting ain't teaching their kids and pouring to their kids to understand and have awareness and insight, a lot of times that does downplay onto the kids. So even if you're trying to educate and mentor, it can be hard and difficult to do that in the constructs we have now. And what I mean by the constructs, a lot of it has to do with social media. If you look at a lot of the content that is shown, just from a television standpoint, let alone our phones, if the kids are on this device all day, a lot of this is raising kids. And a lot of it is showing things that we may, well, let me take it back. We were exposed to when I was growing up. Because I know a lot of people like to touch on, oh, y'all did this and y'all had this. But I feel like the difference between now and today, it is it is information overload. And it's also, we again, the fact that we was not on our phones all day, it allowed us to actually have effective communication among our peers, where there was diversity in the music that we listened to. Everything wasn't just one sound. It wasn't all this gritty music. Like, you had options. And then for the most part, a lot of stuff we play on the radio today, we played on the radio, and it was heavily censored to some degree. And it wasn't always on your TV either. You had to catch it late at night. If you wanted to watch some of the explicit content, it came on late at night. I say all that to say, although we have evolved in so many ways in the culture that we have today, I feel like it really is lacking in showing up in the lack of dreams that are among the kids who are growing up today. And I feel like it's causing a pattern. It is causing a trickle effect where the, the kids are not being poured into and they're having kids and they're not pouring into their kids. And then before you know it, the cycle continues. And now you're just stuck in this generational repeated system where nothing is getting healed, fixed, or acknowledged. And that is definitely something that needs to be addressed without coming off in a confrontational kind of way. So, to not come off as confrontational, it made me think about, well, how do we address it and allow the kids to acknowledge and do something different? Because, of course, the internet is not going to go away. But it made me think more about how do you reach the kids. And I think a lot of it just starts with the adults. I feel like if we took more responsibility and cared more about the youth, outside of just speaking, but do it by actions. A lot of us are moving from very immature perspectives, and also a lot of people are communicating in ways that they're accustomed to, and that could be yelling. We know that it's not effective to reach anyone. But I feel like the biggest thing is when it comes to communication these days, a lot of it has to do with maybe things may need to be censored from an internet standpoint, because that is the one thing that everybody is on at all time, constantly on the internet, and it's multiple apps. You really can't hide from it. And I think the biggest thing to get kids away from that is like, okay, activities, because I noticed even from a school standpoint, a lot of things have been taken away. As we know now, in certain states, certain books are being taken away. And I feel like my dreams, a lot of it came from books. It sparked imagination, and it allowed me to express myself in a creative way. Also allowed me to be an effective communicator simply by reading books, which is what I still do today, which is another thing I've noticed we lack today. Kids, a lot of people are not reading books. It's hard to obtain new information and to seek, confirmation on things if you're not reading. And we have to do more reading outside of a social media, headline. Like, we actually have to seek knowledge and want to absorb it and see how we can do better when we do that, right? I think another thing is not only just limiting maybe social media, but let our young girls and boys know that you are more than your bodies. Let's start there. You are more than your bodies. And know that your mind can take you to the moon and back. There is no ceiling. And I think a lot of kids need to know that to dream bigger than yourself, it can literally catapult your mind into another universe if you allow it. And again, if the kid is poured into correctly. But I do believe that if we start with the internet in some capacity, and I know it seems like a lot, but I do think the internet is one of the biggest tools as to what has allowed kids to not dream anymore. You got to think about a lot of these girls want to be influencers. They want to, they want the bodies, as we've seen. A lot of people have died from trying to get their bodies, but that's the thing that everybody sees a lot, and they see that's the thing that gets attention. You see a lot of young guys, they want to do cosplay, they want to be gangsters, they want to keep up that lifestyle because it makes them seem a certain way. Even if they don't live the lifestyle, but it's all about what it looks like, on our phones. I can look like I'm a gang banger. I hate that I said that. But gang influence where you got kids with guns out here taking pictures and thinking it's cool. You got girls who are being very explicit, almost on the cuffs of borderline strippers. Young men out here thinking it's okay to disrespect girls, sleep around with a lot of girls, and think they cool. And then on top of that, a lot of these kids, they don't want to work. If you haven't noticed on a lot of the news articles, especially I think I read in New York Times, where it's hard. These kids don't know, nobody's working. You go to a lot of these fast food places now, which was once I worked at a fast food. That was my first job. A lot of these kids are not working fast food jobs. Granted, not saying they should have exactly what we did, because they do have better opportunities, but it's also where the kids do not have any self-preservation to want better outside of the influencer life. Granted, the internet pays a lot of money. These kids see that you can do a lot for very little, and you don't have to be talented. And that's another thing that's changing. A lot of kids, just everything has changed for the good, but also for the worse, because a lot of it is causing a lot of these young adults to not have critical thinking skills. They do not know how to be effective communicators, and they also do not know how to express themselves. A lot of them are emotionally detached, and a lot of that again influence in music. The music today, and I sound old. I sound old, but a lot of it is lyrically like dumbing these kids down to the point where it's like, WTF? What y'all listening to? You can't even understand the words. And I noticed too. One thing I've noticed: all these kids want to look alike. Everybody got the same hair. Everybody going to dress the same. And one thing I do realize when I was growing up, everybody wanted to be different. Like you saw somebody else had it on, you kind of had to tweak it to make it your own. Whether that was those who were rapping, whether that was the girls who had the clothes. Like it was a time, don't get me wrong, where everything were in style, but everybody kind of wanted to have their own little twist, their own little thing. And now it's copy and paste, whether it's down to the body, down to the car, down to the having the same girl or guy. Like everybody wants to have a uniform look. There's no individuality. And again, it sucks because that's what makes us great, to be individuals. And our roles goes back to the lack of dreams, the lack of dreams, the lack of aspiration. And it's it should make us be a little bit more alarmed as to why these things have changed and what we can really do to make a dent, at least put a dent in this, and kind of help the kids coming up behind them to be better. In what way, in what capacity are we able to see that come to light? So I say all of that to say that we should most definitely be pouring into our youth and stand up and have the courage for those of you all who are parents or step parents or godparents or grandparents or whatever role you are, even in the mentor role. If you don't know, have the courage to speak up and find the information. Seek out people who may know the information, because the goal is, let's get these kids in the habit of exploring those dreams, those aspirations, and wanting more out of life than taking a picture, to want more out of life than just going live and, keeping up a persona of something that they're just not. And I really do believe once we can get to that point, and again, start young, allow these kids to have hobbies, which is something a lot of them do not have. Give them, throw things at them where, see what sticks. It can be music, it can be fashion, like whatever it is, support it. It can even be sports. It can be the world is your oyster. And I do believe travel, if you can, even if you can't take them, across the country, take them to museums, take them somewhere local, anything that you can go to and do a weekend in your car, do that. Because again, if you spark, it just takes a spark of interest in kids, and you'd be surprised on where that can take them. And just give them the sense of belonging, because that's a lot of these kids are searching for, is a purpose. And a lot of that starts with us as an adults. When kids come to us, make sure we guiding them correctly in the right way, and making sure they have what they need, and making sure that, again, if we don't know, seek out the people who do know. Because I feel like we live in a time where we are surrounded by information, and there is no excuse as to why we don't have it and why we can't reach out and find it. Let me get you guys to go to my website where you can look up more things related to what I've discussed, because I wrote a whole article as usual on here. Let me share. Okay, here's the website. And I wrote about it. Definitely take a look at it and read all about it. And I'm going to scroll down. I definitely talk about my story and how dreams and aspirations started for me and what influenced me, and just kind of went into a little more details of what I've just stated here today, and kind of came up with the conclusion on how we all can be playing an active role when it comes to the youth. But make sure once you read it, definitely leave a comment, share, tell a friend to tell a friend about what I got going on. And you make sure, let's be a conversation piece. Let's talk about it in the comments, wherever you see this. And let's just see how we can get the conversation up and running. Talk about your experience. Do you notice kids who are lacking dreams and aspirations? What do you all recommend that one could do to help? Let's get a community going where we can all be an advocate for this and making sure we're telling the youth correctly. Again, make sure you like, subscribe, and follow me on everything that's Ebony and Co. The article will be below in the description. And definitely like and share the video. Tell a friend again about me. Come over and see about me, and let's talk about it. Again, until next time, talk to y'all later. Bye.